In a tough comeback attempt, ASU falls short to number 10 UCLA 50-36 here in Tempe. My name is Nick Borgia with Devil's Digest. Alongside me is publisher Hode Urbino, and this is our post-game analysis. And Hode, ASU came into this game as the heavy underdog, and UCLA forced ASU to play catch-up for pretty much the entire game.
Yeah, I think the differences in both the talent level of both teams was pretty evident. I know interim head coach Sean Aguano after the game, I did take full responsibility for not preparing the team adequately. I mean, I think it's definitely very noble of any head coach to actually utter those words. But I think ultimately your talent level really is your talent level, and sometimes you're only as good as the opponent on the other side of the ball. And I just felt that UCLA came in here as a superior team, and that's really exactly what we saw today. Myself and I think a lot of other pundits really had their doubts how great this UCLA team is. Are they deserving of being ranked number 10 in the country with a record of 7-1, with a schedule that really has been soft for the most part? But I think today they definitely proved the rest of the Pac-12 that if everybody is mentioning Oregon and USC, maybe Utah as some of the better teams, you really have to put UCLA in the conversation. I'm not saying that ASU is one of the juggernauts of the conference right now, but the way UCLA played on both sides of the ball was really impressive. And I'm curious to see that if they do get to that Pac-12 championship game, if they can really actually capture the crown when it's all said and done. But this is by far the best UCLA team that I've seen in a long time, and it definitely showed on the scoreboard.
So if we look at that UCLA offense, Hode absolutely torched the ASU defense with putting up 50 points, and they didn't even have their star running back in Zach Charbonnet. It wasn't in the game, but it was Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the quarterback, that stepped up with 169 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, and 120 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Just putting the pedal to the metal for the Bruins and put up 50 points against the ASU defense.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think the ASU, the defensive coaching staff, if they knew ahead of time that Zach Charbonnet was not going to play, I don't think they're really licking their chops to thinking they have a much better chance now to stop this explosive UCLA offense. And by the way, with Charbonnet, just a full disclosure, I talked to some LA beat writers in the press box. Nobody saw this coming. I mean, it was an absolute surprise that Zach Charbonnet was not playing tonight. I don't know if it was some injury that was being concealed, or maybe it was some disciplinary issue. But suffice to say that UCLA did not miss him, because the Bruins rushed for over 400 yards in this game, 402 to be exact. Absolutely rammed the ball down the throats of the ASU defense. So when you look at an offense that's explosive, it's not always a matter of just the quarterback just sitting in the pocket and just picking apart the secondary to the tune of 300, 400 yards passing. Tonight, it definitely was just the UCLA ground attack that absolutely just really demolished the ASU defense. There were just an enormous number of explosive plays. Mostly rushing, but also passing too. I think at halftime, 8 of UCLA's 16 first downs were actually via explosive plays, and I'm sure if we look at the final tally, it's definitely somewhere in the teens for UCLA. So this offense, I think, really just came as advertised, and they showed that without arguably the best running back in the Pac-12, they did not miss a beat in the ground game. They didn't even try to overcompensate and really have their passing game going. Whatever ASU defense gave them, which specifically is just letting them run up and down the field, that's what UCLA was really glad to take. I'm about to preface the next statement saying that I don't take anything away from UCLA's offense. This probably is the best offense in the Pac-12, probably right up there with Oregon. But it is important to note that there were several players on ASU defense that did catch the flu bug over the weekend. Most of them actually did play, but they were far from 100%. That would be a tough task, even against offenses that are much lesser of a caliber of talent than UCLA. But against an absolutely explosive unit like this, it really was detrimental and then some. I thought coming into this game that the ASU defense are really going to have more problems than the ASU offense, and this actually did come out to be true.
So, Hode, that UCLA offense just simply outpaced the ASU offense. ASU still able to put up 36 points. Trenton Bourguet had a good performance, but ultimately was not enough to take down the Bruins.
Yeah, I mean, so someone told me after the game that if your offense scores 36 points, you really should win the game. But as I said a minute ago, I knew coming into this game the ASU defense was going to have their hands full and then some against the UCLA offense, and that's exactly what happened. But in terms of the ASU offense, I don't think it's really all a rosy picture, so to speak, because in the second quarter they did not score any points, and in the game where it almost has to be like an Arena League game where you have to always counter approach and make sure that you're scoring a touchdown when the other team is scoring a touchdown. When ASU is just laying a goose egg in the second quarter, that definitely did hurt them a lot. Now, as much as I'm critical of the ASU defense, let's not forget that Dorian Thompson-Robinson, his first pass of the game was actually an interception. ASU goes deep into the red zone, but is only able to come up with a field goal and not a touchdown. And that was, I think, very indicative of the struggles they had in the first half of play. The second half, they definitely did play much better and were able to respond to some increased effort by the ASU defense at some points. But 349 yards passing by Bourguet, definitely impressive. But when you have UCLA rushing for over 400 yards and ASU only rushes for 119, I think that really is different between both offenses, where one offense absolutely controls the tempo of the game from start to finish, and the ASU offense, like I said earlier, is just playing in catch-up mode, playing in comeback mode. I do give him credit for really fighting into the last whistle. That's something Sean Aguano did say. I'm not portraying this as a moral victory or anything, but in a game where I think it was really, really easy for the offense, for the whole team for that matter, to really check out, I would say maybe pretty early in the third quarter, they did not do that. And I think the ASU offense did have a pretty impressive performance under the circumstances. But again, that second quarter not scoring any points was absolutely the difference, I think, tonight.
So with this loss, ASU falls to 3-6. Next week they take on Washington State, a pretty formidable team. Only so many games left in the season, needing to reach that 6-win mark in order to be eligible for a bowl game. I mean, Hode, do you see any possibility of that, especially with a road game against Washington State next week?
Yeah, I mean, the margin of error, as you said, is pretty much down to 0 right now. When you talk about games that haunt you, obviously the loss to Stanford right now looms large that much more. I'm not even talking about the loss to Eastern Michigan, which seems like a million years ago. So, if ASU just wins one of those games or both of those games, then yes, I would say absolutely there is a path to be bowl eligible. And I know it's not a feat that people should throw a parade on Mill Avenue for or anything like that. But with a change of head coaches in the third week of the season, that would be something impressive. So right now, it almost seems like mission impossible. Thankfully, it's going to be a day game in Pullman, but it's still going to be at 30 degrees at kickoff. So the adversity, aside from being a road game, and we talked at length all season long, that ASU is not a team that plays that well away from Tempe. Now going to Pullman and adverse weather conditions, they get the team that is pretty good. And I'm not blinded, so to speak, by their big win against Stanford. I mean, unfortunately, ASU did not win over there on the farm, but every other team in the Pac-12 pretty much was able to come away victorious. But I think Washington State is definitely one of the better teams, not in the caliber of UCLA, Utah, USC, but definitely a team that's not going to make life easy for ASU. And the fight that we saw in the waning moments of this game from both sides of the ball, let's see if that fight something that can carry over to Pullman, because they're absolutely going to need it. I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight over there against Washington State. It doesn't look so promising right now to reach that magical 6-win mark, but now there's something that could really a game at a time. I know it's one of the worst cliches in football, if not in all of sports. But ASU just really can look ahead beyond the game against Washington State, and maybe atone to the various shortcomings that they displayed tonight against UCLA.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Hode, for this next week's practice coverage and next week's game coverage. Keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Also, drop a follow at Devils Digest on Twitter. For Hoder Bino and the rest of Devil's Digest, my name's Nick Borgia, and we thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.